in 1976, just shortly after we got married. And we got married when?
November 1st, 1975.
Ah, I should be able to remember that. And it's been how many years now?
Just about 49.
Wow. Anyway, shortly after we got married, we kind of went on a second honeymoon. We went on a trip to BC. And at the time, we had no idea that we would have an opportunity to explore this mighty bird, the Martin Mars water bomber, the Philippine Mars. That's next.
Know you've been a good friend, and that's in the thick and thin, and I know it's never gonna end, 'cause you've been a good friend.
We really appreciate everybody that subscribed to our channel and hit the, what do you call that thing? The bell?
Oh.
She's still working on that.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
The notification bell.
Notification bell.
Yeah, and hit the thumbs up or the like button. That'll really help us. Yeah. Our plan was to travel with my 1969 Mercury Marauder X100. I love that car. With that powerful 429 engine. I had to be careful I didn't step on the gas too fast because guess what it did? It squealed the tires. Didn't want to do that when I was around the cops.
Nope.
Yeah, anyway. So we decided to go on a trip and do some camping along the way, visit the many attractions in BC, and including family who lived in Vancouver and on the island. So sections of this presentation will be used in video available on some YouTube channels. I've reached out to some of them, like the Colson Group, owners of these mighty planes. Britt Colson had no problem if I share some of the videos on their channel as long as I give them credit. Also Kermit Weeks, a pilot who has flown these birds from the Fantasy of Flight YouTube channel, and Ryan from Air Show Stuff has also given me permission. So any video I use from someone else's YouTube channel, I will give them credit on the lower left corner of the video, including either the lower left or on the right. You'll see it in the lower left or the right, including links to their channels in comments about this video. If you enjoyed this video, please share, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to hit thumbs up button, the like button, and that'll sure help our channel. Although this video is mainly about the Martin Mars water bombers, to get started I will first share some 8mm camera footage I took in 1976 on our trip to BC that gave us the opportunity to explore and walk on the wings of the Philippine Martin Mars. That video will include our trip to BC and the different places we stopped on the way there. Places that you may have visited at one time or another. So we will get started. I'll go set up the projection screen and I'll start sharing our journey to Sprout Lake on Vancouver Island. Thanks for watching. There we go. 1976. Heading west out of Edmonton. Gonna hit Highway 16 going west on the Yellowhead. You will notice here that it's not twinned like it is now. 2024, it's twinned all the way to Jasper. Here we are at Jasper doing some overflow camping at a campground, the Jasper Overflow Campground. You know, it's back then, $3. That's all it cost to camp at that overflow. After that, we ended up at Mount Robson for a bit as we journeyed on. And we ended up in Prince George, visiting an uncle there who worked at the Northwood pulp mill. There he is at the controls. And then after that, we headed south and ended up east of Quesnel over at the Barkerville Historic. I ended up going for a little bit of a horse ride, a horse carriage ride. There's quite a bit to see there at Barkerville. I guess they're looking for some gold there. They're at Trapper Dan's cabin. There's Trapper Dan. After picking up some baked goods and some bread, it was time to journey on, leaving Barkerville. And then on Highway 1, there's Hell's Gate air tram. So we went for a ride on that air tram. There is some history behind that area that you can search out. And back on to Highway 1. Love going through them tunnels. And then that night we stayed at a campground near Hope. And we were parked right underneath a tent, underneath a tree, I should say. And all night long, trains were going by making lots of noise. When we woke up in the morning, it had been raining all night, and our tent didn't even get wet. Well, we made it was under that tree. Okay, now we're headed to Vancouver, and one of the places we visited in Vancouver was the Stanley Park Zoo. Good old polar bear. And there's some fellas there monkeying around. I think that's called Boogle, something like that, I don't know. There's also some killer whales there too, and they were performing for us, jumping up. Jump up. Doing a couple jumps for us, turning it upside down there and wave goodbye. And there we got a tourist. Did I say tourist? Tourist. Turtle, whatever. Then it was time to go for a plane ride. Train ride. Not a plane ride. Yeah, we're not going on the plane yet. Okay, going for a train ride. Around the corner we go. I kind of wonder if that train is still there at the Stanley Park Zoo. Oh, what's going on? Oh, you didn't see that. I had to go for a swim in the ocean, of course. Well, that's the water between Vancouver Island and Vancouver. Okay, now we're for dinner with another aunt and uncle of mine. Went over to the Vancouver PNE. Kind of wonder if that roller coaster is still there. And we went on that roller coaster, amongst some other things there too. Okay, now we're headed to BC Ferries, going for a ride on the ferries to get over to Vancouver Island. So after being on the ferry, heading down the Alberni Highway, I should say, and then over to Uncle Harold and Kay's place. The Martin JRM Mars is a large 4-engine cargo transport flying boat designed and built between 1945 and 1948 by the Glen L. Martin Company. They were originally built for the United States Navy during World War II and had the advantage of not needing any expensive airport facilities or runways. They originally ordered 20 of them in 1944. The size of a 15-room house, this flying boat had 2 decks. It was initially used as a cargo and transport plane, which could carry about 300 passengers. It had sleeping quarters for 36 people and showers for a crew of 13 and could fly to Europe and back on one fill-up. The first model, the Hawaii Mars, was delivered July 1945 towards the end of the war. Well, because the war was over, they reduced the order to only 6. Now, the original Hawaii Mars was lost in an accident on Chesapeake Bay on August 5, 1945, a few weeks after its initial flight on July 21st. The other 5 Mars were completed and the last one delivered in 1947. The other Martin Mars planes, the Marianas, the Philippine Mars, the Marshall Mars, and the Caroline Mars that you can see here. And there is also a second Hawaii Mars, the Hawaii Mars 2. Now, 2 of them were lost to accidents in the early 50s. On April 5, 1950, the Marshall crash-landed at sea, exploded, and burned. 4 of them were put up for auction in 1959, sold for a total of $23,650, and this buyer planned to scrap the aircraft. However, Canadian pioneer Dan MacGyver figured he could change this flying boats to water bombers, so he bought them for $25,000 each and acquired a large spares parts inventory. So they ended up at their new home in BC at the Forest Industrial Flying Tankers Sprout Lake Tanker Base in December of 1959. Mariano's Mars crashed while flying uphill. Fortunately, there was trouble with the mechanism and the load didn't get released, and the Mars crashed into the hillside in Northwest Bay near Nanoose Bay in 1961 with the loss of all 4 crew. October 12, 1962, while parked on shore at the Victoria Airport, the Caroline Mars was damaged beyond repair by Typhoon Frida when she was blowing 200 meters, breaking her back. So now they were left with two remaining Mars water bombers, the Hawaiian Mars 2 and the Philippine Mars, and they have been fighting fires since 1962, based at Sprout Lake, British Columbia. Now in 1976, Sandra's uncle Harold took us out to the lake to explore these mighty birds. He was the flight engineer on the Philippine Mars, and so he took us out there to explore and walk on the wings of the Philippine Mars. The call letters when we were there on the Philippines was CFLYK. So let's go there now. So the entrance at the time in 1976 was Forced Industries Flying Tankers. That sign is no longer there since the changeover in ownership. Here we are on top of the wings. Looking over there, you can see the Hawaii Mars also sitting in the lake. Here's a look at the cockpit where the pilots flew the plane from. In behind them, where Harold and Sandra are standing, was the flight engineer's station. We were surprised to learn that this huge boat, flying boat, has 2 decks and is the size of a 15-room house. We are here on the upper deck, and now we're going down into the lower deck. Here we are again on the upper level, looking around at the lake and looking at them powerful Wright R3550 Riedel engines, which gives each engine 2,500 horsepower, each using 420 US gallons per hour at cruise and up to 780 US gallons when loaded. We virtually went for a walk on the Philippine Martin Mars with Harold. Sandra on one end of the wing and I was on the other end of the wing. Hatches in the fuselage allow you to exit and walk around the top of the wing and fuselage, but you have to watch your step, and it's a long ways to fall. A helicopter was flying over, maybe checking out to see what we were doing. After exploring the Martin Mars, we went into shore and checked out the shop, the yard, and other areas of this compound. The Philippine Mars has not flown on fire since the summer of 2006 and was repainted to original U.S. Navy markings in preparation for transfer to a museum. On the 25th of April 2024, Paima Air and Space Museum in Arizona announced that it had acquired the Philippine Mars and that it will be delivered to the museum in late 2024.
Now, more on a story we brought you earlier this week about the retirement of Philippine Mars. The water bomber is being prepared for its final flight to a museum in Florida. Little did we know, one of Philippines' first engineers lives right here on Vancouver Island, and when he saw our story, he hopped into his car, determined to drive to Sprout Lake for one last photo with his former colleague. Neighbors feared for his safety on the windy highway, so that's where we came in. CTV's Chandler Grieve has more.
What have we got here, Harold?
We just got where we're flying in over the country to get to a fire.
They're memories of decades spent aboard the Philippine Martin Mars water bomber.
In fact, when I first started there in '65, I did the total inspection.
From inspections to keeping his crew entertained.
Cameron Lake, I wish you whiskey. Cameron Lake, oh hi. Cameron Lake, I wish you whiskey. I drink you dry.
Those are the younger days, huh?
92-year-old Harold Newman can still remember almost every fire he fought with the Philippines.
Well, we were on that fire about 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I said my Hail Marys a lot of times, you know.
Is that
And
right?
I'm not even Catholic.
7 years after that fire, the flight engineer said his goodbyes to the bomber.
Well, that was the day I retired. I put my lunchbox up for sale.
But Harold, he still loves to reminisce, which is why Harold's neighbor Arlene went over to his house after watching our story earlier this week about the Philippine bomber being retired to a Florida museum.
Well, he was just about ready to get in the car and drive out there to Sprout Lake and look at them again.
All Harold wanted was one more picture with the bomber before it headed south, but his neighbors were a little worried about how the 92-year-old would navigate the highway.
No, I wouldn't want him to make the trip out there by himself. I actually told him not to go today.
We getting in here?
So Arlene contacted CTV News, and we were happy to help out. With the flight engineer in his familiar co-pilot position, we went from Parksville to Port Alberni.
Yeah.
But before the picture could be taken, a little history lesson for this reporter. What do you think of the new color?
Strictly Navy.
Yeah. You like it? Is it better?
No.
Harold also tracked down an old colleague, a fellow engineer, who learned a thing or two about Mars bombers from Harold.
Everything I know.
Come on. Not very much then.
A few clicks later, and Harold had what he came for.
I think that's great. That's good.
But before it was time to go, one final send-off.
Goodbye, old bird.
A bird that this old flight engineer has now cleared for takeoff one last time. Chandler Grieve, CTV News, Port Alberni.
I'm Jim.
I'm Sandra.
We are retired old timers, taking it easy,
One day at a time.
and you just never know.
What's around the next corner?
So thanks for watching, and God bless.